Well, good day. My name is Vincent Linderhof. I hope you can see my screen now.
Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
I will put it in full screen mode as well. I'm working at Wageningen University and Research. I'm an environmental economist with a special interest in food systems and the way they work and how they can be changed. And one of the projects I'm doing right now is looking into what kind of pathways for transition there are for healthy diets in the Accra food environment. This is initiated by, well, on the one hand, a project we were doing at Wageningen University and Research already. And we started collaborating with the Ghana Urban Food Environment Coalition Impacts, which has presented their work in the previous conference of the Food Environment Research Network. And it was initiated by the Netherlands Food Partnership, and they also collaborate in this research, as well as the University of Ghana is involved. Which is also involved in the coalition, by the way. It's not me myself. I have a couple of colleagues who collaborate with me on this project, not only from Wageningen Research, but also from the Netherlands Food Partnership, as well as the University of Ghana. The objective of our research is to develop pathways to achieve a desired future with healthy diets and pathways for the urban food environment in 2050 in Accra. It's something which is non-existing, but what we try to do is to bring together different types of stakeholders and start dreaming on how it would look like, what we would like to change. And of course, different actors in the field will have different opinions, different interests, and they might be conflicting. So there will rise trade-offs which have to be made by changing the settings of the food environment. And that's one of the reasons why we came up with this kind of research to do and to start with a very participatory approach. Make sure that everyone understands each other and you're talking about the same things, have the common knowledge and also the shared knowledge to start and see how you can change the current situation into a more future with healthy diets and also sustainable diets. It's based on, well, what we call the transition support system approach that we have developed in the last couple of years. It's a very participatory approach, but we also use some decision support tools. But the interesting thing is that these decision support tools, they have to be supported by all the stakeholders involved. So they can even address them themselves, and then based on knowledge sharing, the group can decide to continue with the decision support tool or maybe change it to another one. Our approach has 5 different steps. From the first one is determining the urgency, or so in this case it would be the healthier diets in the future. Then we're going to look into scenarios. That can be the pathways which are identified. We will go into a bit more in-depth analysis of how it will work out, what is expected from the different actors, what kind of activities should they do, and then we will see how it will work out. And then the final step is to do an impact evaluation, which might then lead to adjustments of maybe the urgency or the scenarios or the transitions or the pathways, so to say. if necessary. So it's a vicious circle for this approach. In this current project, we only use the first two steps, so determining the urgency and the scenario analysis. But in a later stage, we can also see whether or not we can even conduct the other steps of our approach. So the approach is applied to the Accra food environment, healthier diets in the future, and we took the approach of conducting workshops with stakeholders and actors. We are in the middle of conducting the workshop, so to say. We have done our first workshop 2 weeks ago, and then we discussed, or we discussed two elements of the different steps of our approach. First, we discussed the visioning of the food environment in 2050. And of course, there's a lot of overlap between what people want, but there's also some differences. And we took the approach of having a dialogue to make sure that people can add all their stories, and together with that, with all the stories, it's what the visioning will be. And the second step was to identify pathways for the vision that was shared among the participants, to see what kind of pathways do people envision for the future to make this future with healthy diets possible. So that's what we have done so far. Now we are in the phase of reporting back to the participants to see what has come out, and we identified 3 different pathways, and we will continue our work in December, on the 2nd of December, with the same participants and maybe more participants to discuss what would be the action perspective. So what would be the actions related to the pathways to achieve this desirable future of the healthy diets, and also talking about what kind of actions are needed from the different actors. So it's not a personal question for the actors which are present, but it's more a question for what kind of actions are expected from maybe the government, maybe from the private sector, maybe from schools, from the citizens, etc. And then we have a final step, because the coalition, which I mentioned earlier, is conducting really on-the-ground actions already. And the final step would then be to see how our action perspectives and pathways will connect to the actions which are already conducted by the coalition at this moment in the field. So what is key for our approach? It's to make the pathways for the desired future as explicit as possible, and clearly define who's responsible, what kind of roles are taken by who, and also what is the commitment of these the actors. Key issues or key elements of success of our approach is that all stakeholders should be present. Otherwise, you talk about actors which are not present and cannot tell what their interest is. It's very important to have this shared knowledge and this shared understanding. So even if you have conflicts of interest, it's better to know than not to know, because then you can try to deal with it. It also means that maybe you cannot achieve the full things of the full parts of your interest, but maybe you have to suffer with only a part of this what you would like to achieve. It's also very important to be aware that we take the approach of having a dialogue rather than a discussion, so that it's not a matter of who is right, who is wrong. No, different opinions can exist next to each other. I will skip this for the time. So we, as already mentioned, we have the Transition Pathways project, which we're conducting, and also the coalition actions. These coalition actions are really on the ground, maybe trying to change the current markets to make it more food safe, and also to reduce harvest loss or food waste reductions. And what we try to do with the transition and pathways is to have a bit broader discussion to see how all markets in Accra should change, and maybe even how convenience shops should maybe be installed or regulated. So we were inspired by the coalition to start our project. We will take a bit different approach because we're looking into the transition pathways and the action perspectives of the Accra food environment. But hopefully the action perspective will be an inspiration for the coalition to move on with the activities in the future, given in the context also of the action perspectives which were defined by our project. So what it was the outcome of the first workshop. This was actually the common vision. It does not mean that all the elements were mentioned by all stakeholders, but it's really a combination of all the elements which were mentioned. Very important, the sustainability has become an integral part of local culture. That's what is envisaged. The government and private sector provide the right conditions in the future, so they have a shared responsibility to make sure that the sustainable foods are affordable and accessible for everyone. And also the urban environments will be characterized by green surroundings, like using fruit trees in the public spaces, for instance. And very important is the increase of the awareness by the different actors. So it's not only by maybe the citizens to make them more aware of what healthy diets are or what healthy food is, but also by farmers, that they can take decisions with respect to producing more healthy food. Last thing is that during the workshop, we also used a graphical designer to increase also the or to support our discussion. So the graph you see here is actually also the result of the common vision, how a city in terms or the food environment should look like in the future. This is just a picture which will be also the base for the next step for the second workshop, where we determine the action perspective. So what can we then expect from the different stakeholders? Which actions they should take to achieve the common vision at the end. So if you would be interested in joining this workshop, then I would invite you, and you can send me an email. Thank you.